Hi. Today I'm going to continue reading the story Dory and the Haunted House. So last time, which I know was a long time ago, I'm sorry, we left off on... Actually, these pages aren't numbered, so I'm just going to start reading. Rain spattered against the window. Lightning flashed brighter and brighter. Bats flapped and squeaked. A crash of thunder shook the house until it rattled. There were thuds and bumps and a strange whispering sound. "It's getting spookier around here all the time," said Dory. "Let's go down that hall. Maybe there's a pantry like the one at home." There, I'm centered. Down the dark hall they went. They came to a small door. Dory grabbed the rusty handle and turned it. The door slowly squeaked open and they went inside. A glimmer of light from a narrow window shone on shelves of dusty jars and jugs, on bins and brooms, and a big flour barrel left near the window. See? "It is the pantry, and it's really scary," said Dory. "There's so much dust on the pickle jars they look like Dory stopped. A flash of lightning brightened the room, and in the dust and flour around the barrel there were footprints, great big footprints. Lightning flashed again, thunder rolled and boomed, and the house shook. The pantry door swung shut behind them. "Oh, oh, ghosts! Listen, Gink," whispered Dory. It wasn't branches shrieking and shutters banging in the wind. The sounds were coming from inside the house. Footsteps and voices were coming closer and closer and closer. Dory ran to the window. She scrambled up on a stool and tried to open the window. It wouldn't open. She pushed harder. Suddenly the stool skidded and Dory fell down, down, down right into the old flour barrel, and so did Gink. Heavy footsteps creaked, then stopped outside the pantry door. Voices argued back and forth, louder and louder. Dory held Gink and wiggled down into the flour as far as she could. "Ouch! I sat on something sharp. It feels like a rock," whispered Dory, reaching down into the flour. She shoved it into her pocket and held Gink closer. Lightning flashed. Gink sneezed. Thunder crashed. Dory sneezed. "It's the flour," said Dory. She sneezed again. "Those ghosts will find us for sure if we keep sneezing. Let's go." They scrambled out of the barrel, all white with the flour, and hid in a dark corner near the door. The voices stopped. Slowly, with a loud creak, the door was pushed open. A great big shadowy shape and a smaller one crept into the pantry and over toward the flour barrel. A clap of thunder shook the house. Dory grabbed Gink and dashed out of the pantry and slammed the door. It slammed so hard the rusty handle fell on the floor. Dory raced to the front door. It was locked. Voices from the pantry were yelling louder and louder, and they sounded madder and madder. "A ghost! I saw it! A ghost took the ruby! Stupid! It's a trick! You're seeing things! I am not!" Thud. "You are so!" Crash. Help! The ghost locked the door and took the ruby. Dimly, we're trapped. Dory didn't wait to hear any more. She whirled around and dashed upstairs with Gink. She dashed into her room and slammed the door and locked it. Dory put Gink down and looked around. It's an old bathroom. Those ghosts are so busy arguing about some other ghosts, maybe they won't look for us. Dory listened. The banging and crashing had stopped. She heard footsteps running around and around, doors being opened, boxes sliding, and once in a while, a shout. Oh, help! They're after us, said Dory. She jumped into the old bathtub with Gink and pulled a rug over them. It's awfully dark, she whispered to Gink. Maybe they won't look for us in here. Maybe it will be too dark for them to see us. They hid under the rug and listened. They listened and listened. All they could hear was the rain and branches squeaking in the wind. All at once there was a whooshing, spinning sound. It grew very, very quiet and even darker. There was another whoosh and the sound of voices far away, then closer and closer. Footsteps came creeping up the stairs and down the hall. They stopped outside the door. Oh, Gink, whispered Dory, the ghosts have found us. The handle of the door rattled. It was wiggling to and fro with a scritching sound. Dory sat up. Go away, yelled Dory. You can't come in. I'm taking a bath, and so is my cat. A voice called out. Dory, is that you? Open the door. It was the big witch. Dory jumped out of the tub and flung open the door. The big witch and all the other witches and wizards were crowding around. They took one look at Dory, and yelling and shouting, Help! Ghosts! They all scurried down, down, down the stairs. Out of the house and into the woods they went. Dory and Gink ran after them. Through the woods they ran. Suddenly, as they came near Dory's house, there was a shout from behind some trees. And the two shapes from the haunted house ran after the witches and wizards and slipped into the house right behind them. The door slammed and locked. Oh my, said Dory. Now those ghosts are inside our house. Maybe Mother found the ruby and the ghosts are trying to take it away. We've got to warn her, Gink. Sparks were shooting out of the tower and whirling in the wind and rain, around and around. There were great puffs of purple smoke. Dory stood in the yard with Gink and yelled up at the tower. She yelled and yelled. At last the big witch poked her head out and looked down. Dory and Gink were standing in the rain with the flour dripping off them. Dory's clothes and Gink were slowly turning black again. It's Dory, shouted the big witch, not a ghost at all. There was a flash of magic from the tower and a rainbow of sparks. The front door swung open. Dory and Gink ran inside as fast as they could go. They ran smack into the great big shadowy shape and the smaller shadowy shape. The shapes banged heads, and they landed in a heap on the hall floor. Just then the big witch and all the other witches and wizards came rushing down the stairs. Look, cried the big witch. Dory has knocked out Uncle King Dimly and Mad Mac. We're saved. Dory looked up at the heap of bandits. The witches and wizards were looking through the bandits' pockets for the blue ruby. I thought they were ghosts, said Dory. They chased us all over the place. I was scared, and so was Gink. Dory frowned. If I were a big witch, I'd point at them, whirl around 3 times, and say, "Banish, bandits! Banished be!" As Dory said that, the heap on the floor vanished into the air, and a cloud of orange and pink and purple sparks floated out of her pocket. "Dory, you have the power to vanish. You found the blue ruby. No wonder the bandits were chasing you," cried the big witch. "Me," said Dory. "I didn't find anything. Just an old rock. I was in the flour barrel and Gink and I sat on it." Dory showed it to the big witch. The big witch rubbed the flour and rain off the blue ruby and held it up for everyone to see. It shone in every shade of orange and red and blue and pink and purple. It glowed like a small, strange moon in the big witch's hand. Just then the clock struck 4. "Hurrah!" they all shouted. And they ran out of the house, chanting a spell to end the wind and rain. Then they marched in a long parade into town to put the blue ruby back safely in the town tower. Mr. Obbs played his violin and they all sang songs. Squig turned Dinger's hat into tin and gave it to Dory to bang on as a drum. They paraded back to Dory's house and told ghost stories until very, very late. The stories were so scary the witches and wizards were afraid to go home in the dark, so they all spent the night in the parlor. Cook mixed up hundreds of pancakes with purple syrup for breakfast. All the wizards and witches voted to make that day a special holiday ever after. They would call it Dory's Day. "Gink helped," said Dory. "He fell into the flour barrel on top of the blue ruby, too." So they all voted to have a Ginksarade every year on Dory's Day. Every year they'd renew the Banish Bandit spell and tell ghost stories and eat pancakes with purple syrup. And they did. So that's the story of Dory and the Haunted House. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it relaxed you or helped you sleep or just helped you be less bored. Thank you for watching. Good night.